Hey, Rafael Cortez here. We're back on the CEO Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are sitting down with none other than Travis Chambers. He is the founder of Chamber Media and Exotic B&B. So this guy is a digital media wizard, and he also has an Airbnb business in the real estate space. All right. If that wasn't enough, he put up check this out. He put up the #1 YouTube ad of the decade. That's amongst his track record. He's Forbes 30 under 30. He was on that. So if you're looking at capitalizing at an early age, this is definitely one of the interviews that you want to check into, as well as Inc. 5000, type of stuff. Google summits, all kinds of stuff, man. Like this, the track record that we're about to tap into is insane. So Travis, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your history as an entrepreneur it's impressive to say the least. And I know I just kind of I opened up with a lot of things on there that, I mean, if you have one of those things, like along the span of a lifetime, like that's a big thing, but you have a couple in there. That's insane. How do you get to the point of where you're at and then, blow up in the entrepreneurship space like you have?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to having a lot of grit to be able to have the I think the courage, but also the almost to be naive enough to start something. It takes a special type of person. I've seen a lot of the entrepreneurs that do it are usually have a lot of trauma they've gone through that has made them maybe appreciate life more. And maybe sometimes they're also seeking some kind of fulfillment or validation. There's usually some kind of greater driver of people. But the other thing too is understanding the industry and being able to read what it's doing. And that sounds very basic. It sounds very obvious. Mm-hmm. But 99% of people, they just don't think about industries. They get done with high school and they think about what kind of job they want to have, which is a horrible approach. You don't have a job, you have an industry, and you're either somebody in that industry or you're not. And so people get into school and they say, well, I want to be a graphic designer. I want to be a marketing person. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor, this does not apply to you.
Right.
But maybe what field are you going to be a doctor in? Because you could be a family doctor who makes 150 grand. Or you could be an eye surgeon with 2 years more of school that makes $1 million a year. Or you could be a doctor who has a business enterprise that invents some new biomedical device that does $1 billion. And so too often people think of their career and their lives as roles that they're going to play for someone else. And that's just not the way to do it. I've too many people are going into college to try to just gain a skill, but it's not just about skills. It's so much more about that. It's about reading an industry. And I've actually been reading, writing down some industries that I think are going to blow up. Anything in solar, electric vehicles, EV charging infrastructure, off-grid appliances and technologies for people that are living off the grid, tiny homes, boutique hotels and hospitality experiences, which is what I'm doing with my new Airbnb company. Mm-hmm. Personal aircraft is going through an explosive renaissance right now. Cirrus came out with a $2 million jet that just blew everything out of the water. And that's just going to be happening more and more. Cryptocurrency infrastructures. So not necessarily just coins, but the infrastructures. What are the smart contracts for specific industries? NFT marketing agencies that pump the value of NFTs. I think someone that starts an NFT promotional agency could probably do millions in the next 12 months. Biomedical devices, people are becoming robotic, joints, synthetic organs, implants, neurosensors. And, in 50 years, everybody's going to be living over 100 years old. So
that's a very, very interesting concept. And I really do believe that's gonna, it's gonna get to that point. It really comes down to thinking outside the box, right? And adopting a different perspective. You said something very, very important. People get out of high school and then they just jump into the job for the college and whatnot. Like I was totally on that boat. I was completely on that boat. The first thing that kind of came across that made sense was fire department, so I jumped into that. But I didn't start thinking like outside the box or thinking about the possibilities or even having that level of awareness until my late 20s. It's crazy. It's insane. Um, so to kind of bring it back, and I think you're on point too with those different industries, anything in greens or self-sustainability and efficiency, it's gonna, I mean, it's blowing up, right? People are more conscientious now about having a better planet, and I mean that's why we see all the movements and everything. With that being said, what's your background? How did you get? Did you come from? I mean, did you jump right, straight into entrepreneurship, or did you go through corporate and then reinvented yourself, or how did that go?
Yeah, my dad. So my dad grew up on a dairy farm, and he paid his way through school, as did I, and he worked his way up in the corporate ladder working for Monsanto, and he grew the Roundup, which is the brand that's also killing everybody, including him. He's dying from exposure with Parkinson's and cancer.
Wow.
So I watched him work a lot growing up. He was gone 4 or 5 days a week building that brand for them, and so I saw him do that, and in my early 20s, I just was that was the plan I was gonna follow, just climb the corporate route, and I was raised very frugally as well. My parents saved for retirement, so they didn't spend a whole lot. They raised us and kind of how they were raised. And so I went to college, I got a job, and I was learning the field. And it was when I saw what my dad was going through and kind of where he ended up with his career that I realized that I needed to do something different. And that's common, right? The farmer, grandpa's a farmer, dad's a corporate salesman, grandson's an entrepreneur. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of poetic. And I think that's usually how it ends up. And I didn't come from money as far as paying for college or getting any type of loan or any help with starting a business or anything. But I had a lot of privilege as far as exposure to how corporate marketing and corporate America works. And so by the time I got in college, I already had a college degree from just my dad teaching me that
proximity. Yeah. From proximity to what he was doing.
Yeah. I already had the Ivy League education without having to go, So I started on entrepreneurship. I had a daughter. I was working like 70 hours a week, and I actually got let go from 20th Century Fox. I just wasn't hacking it there. And I just realized that, I couldn't really find a job in advertising where I could work 40 hours a week. So I decided to try and invent that. And I tried to also invent that for other people that work for me. And now 120 employees now, and we're on a 4-day work week now. We've 2 years in. And
120, and this is for media, right? Chambers Media.
Yes.
Wow. In 2 years, that's insane.
Yeah. Well, we've been building for 7 years, but we went from 15 to 120 in the last year and a half.
So you quintupled your growth, and you're talking a year and a half.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. How did that transition go?
Well, I think the 5 years prior of building a brand and becoming the best in the world at what we do is how we did it. We couldn't have just opened our doors 2 years ago and done this. And I think it's funny because when I started the business, I thought I was just going to be able to just be really successful in the first couple of years. And to be honest, by most standards, I was.
Fast lane, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did 800 grand in revenue our first year, but 800 grand when you split it between 3 partners, not a lot of money when you're only on a 15% profit margin.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses that are doing $1 million, $2 million a year, they don't really make much.
Yep.
And most of them are actually in the hole.
Yeah, I mean,
So
even at 10, it's almost, I mean, you're close to flatlining at a 10% profit margin. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the more partners you have at the top, the worse it is, as far as
Mhm.
everyone having enough to eat. And so yeah, it was building that groundswell and that brand and building all those case studies and those reputations. You know, people come to me and they're like, well, hey, how do I start an agency? And I'm like, beat your head against the wall and lay awake at night for 5 years.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Put in the work.
Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but how do I do it sooner than that? I'm like, you can't. Go start something else. You know? So that's what we did. And we started running ads for ourselves, and we rolled out cheaper pricing, like lower pricing. We figured out a lot of ways to do things for cheaper. And that's how we were able to really scale things out.
So right now, you're what's your main token? You guys specialize in running ads, just you, or not just on YouTube, but I'm guessing across social media platforms, right? Through
Yeah, it's about 50% Facebook, 30% Google and YouTube, and then 20% Pinterest and TikTok.
It's interesting. Pinterest, I've never seen. Well, I mean, it's not too common in from what I see as a consumer, right? Like I see, but does it get a lot of traction, like on the back end? I mean, you have that data. We don't
Well,
like.
Pinterest skews heavily female. It's by far the most female social platform. So
Yeah.
you probably haven't spent 100 hours on Pinterest.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. So it's a subset, it's a niche.
Mhm.
There's just a specific type of person that spends a lot of time on Pinterest,
Yeah.
and they spend money there. It's hit and miss though. Facebook works for almost every industry. Pinterest is a niche thing, just like TikTok. It's a niche thing. It's younger. So it works for some industries, and YouTube's the same way. I mean, YouTube's a little bit hit and miss too. Facebook's really been the only platform that works in over 2/3 of the industries that we're in.
They've done a lot with the algorithms on Facebook. I mean, it just keeps throwing people off. It seems like whenever you try to, because I've tried to set up our own marketing campaigns and digital, presence and all that stuff, right? Creating the brand. But it seems like when you have it somewhat figured out, like they'll come in and switch something on you, and now it's not, your message doesn't go out to anybody. Is that something that you guys come across too, like at a bigger levels, at the higher level?
So there's iOS privacy update that rolled out,
Uh-huh.
and a majority of people have opted out to be tracked on Facebook. Do not track.
Right.
So what that happened to what that did is, I hate to say it to anyone that's listening that's been like seriously affected by that, because most have, but it's weeded out people who maybe have been too narrow in their marketing strategy. They've been too focused on lookalikes, too focused on the rich data that Facebook has, because the truth is that's never coming back. This rich targeting data on people, there was a 7 or 8 year window where it existed, just like viral video existed for 3 or 4 years, just like organic SEO ranking existed for 3 or 4 years, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's gone. So marketing is returning to what it was 15 years ago, where you have to do broad interest-based targeting. And the way to do that, and the way that it has always been the case to do that, is good creative. That's always what's worked on TV ads, infomercials, radio, print, the stuff that people have been doing for 70 years. It still works.
What do you mean by good creative, for those who are not?
So investing in a good video production that tells a really compelling narrative story with a great message, that's engaging, that's captivating, that's quick and that's fast and that can keep people's attention. That is the way to beat this privacy thing. And we have done it. We've only 4% of our accounts. We got over 250 accounts. Only 4% of our accounts had a drop in performance with the iOS update. And from what I've seen from other agencies and a lot of other business owners, is they are just getting decimated by this thing. And we're not. And it's because we've invested really heavily into this strategy with good, well done creative and not just trying to just do everything with ad buying, and with just graphic designed images and
That's
good copy.
Yeah, and that's almost like a default, right? I mean, you like at least for those of us who are not pros at marketing, yeah, we figure we'll put together an ad, we'll put together a JPEG or something, and then some text right below it, and then push the ad, pay for it, pay for it, pay for it. You're the creative that you guys work off of. I mean, it's pretty good. I went to chamber.media, and I like 3 seconds into it, I was grabbed by the video that you have just popping into people's face right there, and like it's interesting, it's engaging. I'm looking at it right now, like it's very dynamic, and it makes you want to watch.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much science to psychology to it, and a lot of data behind it too. We did $100 million ad study, so we managed $100 million in the last 7 years. So we took every piece of creative we had ever made, which was thousands and thousands of ads. We're making about 3,000 video ads a month right now, and these are like with actors and sets and stuff, not like just tabletop stuff.
It works, yeah.
And we put them all into a database. We hired machine learning engineers and VAs to codify and tag all this stuff, and we created a taxonomy, just like if you were going to do a biology study of fungi.
Okay.
You've got fungi, and then you have different family of different types of mushrooms, and then underneath that you have different species and regions.
Right.
We did that with ads, a taxonomy analysis, and we identified 100 different ads out of these 50,000 ads that we studied. And we found that there were generally 7 categories. And we also polled, by the way, the top 1% of the top 2,000 Shopify stores ads as well, and put that into this database.
Wow.
So it's not just our stuff, it's everybody. It's the best ads of all time that have been pulled into this study. And we found what the 7 foundational ads are.
You found 7 foundations of what creates a great ad. Is that what we're saying?
7 ad types. So
okay.
What we've seen in the industry is that people make creative based on random guesses of what might work, and then they throw it at the wall and they spend money on it to see if it'll work. Well, what if you didn't create something it's not going to work ever?
Yeah. It's, if you don't have deep pockets, it's hard to do A and B testing for everything, right? Unless you kick it off that way, and it's almost like a part of the business model. But if it's intentional, the research is always going to take time. It's going to take deep pockets in terms of putting data together, putting the actual ads together, and really like coming to conclusions as to what works. If you don't mind me asking, break those down. You tell us what they are.
Yeah. So there's a spokesperson anchor. There is a product demo. There is a social proof, a unboxing, a lifestyle, and a dynamic ad. So spokesperson anchor is actually includes all 7 within one ad. It's usually a minute or longer. It usually includes a spokesperson, doesn't have to, but we call it the everything ad. The product demo is self-explanatory. We all know what that is. The unboxing, self-explanatory. We all know what that is. Unboxing, social proof involves a testimonial or a press feature or customer reviews or user-generated content. Dynamic ads are what you usually see drop shippers running, where they just take a bunch of random footage from a folder and they throw it into a video editing app. And then I'm missing one. Oh yeah, lifestyle ad is also something I think we all understand. It's just showing off the product being used in everyday life and whatnot. And
giving you an idea of what the life that you could have, for example, if it's a coaching program or something like that, right?
Yeah, and so the problem is people are A/B testing stuff. A lot of times it's never going to work in the first place. And that's the reason that people don't invest in video production, is because, well, what if we spend 10 grand on this? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what we've developed is predictive modeling. Predictive modeling. This is exact same way that people know how bridges will not fall down over a highway. It's the same way that we know that a SpaceX rocket is not going to explode once it hits atmosphere. It's because predictive modeling. We look at the data and the testing that's done in the past in order to predict the future. So we can start at base camp on the climb to Everest instead of starting all the way down at Kathmandu. I mean, it takes a whole week just to get to base camp.
Right.
So we built a tool.
Perfect analogy, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So we built a tool, a software tool called unicorncopy.ai. And this database that we built is called the Brain, this predictive modeling database with the 7 foundational ads as the impetus for this thing. And so at unicorncopy.ai, you can actually look and access data in the Brain to see what kind of ad types you should make in your own industry.
Wow.
And what's crazy is I just told you the 7 foundational ads, but those ad types, they perform differently based on the industry that you're in. Mm-hmm. So even men's apparel and women's apparel, the top 2 performing ad types are different.
Wow.
So it's very important to know your industry and to know what ad types are going to work in your industry.
I guess to kind of paint the picture of that, one of the ads that we see often is in my industry, which a lot of it is in real estate. I own a couple of real estate businesses, and I own a coaching business as well. But it's the lifestyle, right? Not necessarily the like from the standpoint of the coaching program, but the lifestyle that you can have, that you can achieve, through freedom and wealth and all that, based off of the product or strategies and tactics that we're teaching. So if I understand this right, if you go to chamber.media, the ad that you guys have on there, that's a dynamic type of ad. It switches from
which one?
The one on your guys' website, chamber.media.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I'd never thought of it that way, but it's a reel, right? It's a hodgepodge. Click. Yeah, that's a dynamic ad. That's funny, dude. I've never heard it explained that way, but you're right. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally looking at it. It's engaging. It's kind of like looking both ways because I don't want to miss the ad, and then I want to miss the podcast. But it's interesting to have that ability to grasp somebody's attention, right? To bring him into your space and really just engage. One thing that I see all the time, and I just keep asking myself, why the hell does it work this way? Is I'll spend time, for example, putting together a video, right? Or a tutorial or something that I feel is going to be of really, really, really good value. Like, this is stuff that I wish I knew 10 years ago. And I'm putting it together, and I spent, I don't know, all day doing something and then editing and I send it out to my editor. We put this package, we send it out, and then the engagement is not there. But then you do something that has absolutely no value other than maybe a laugh. And it just, the engagement goes up higher. Why does that happen on from a marketing standpoint? Is that like an actual strategy, or do you guys get around that? Like, if you have something like a big point to push, how do you increase that engagement from the marketing side?
Yeah, so obviously, like, super common sense stuff, right, is if you elicit any kind of emotional response, then people will have recall,
right?
And brand recall is one of the most misunderstood, overlooked things in digital marketing, because all of marketing until the internet was based on brand recall. Do I remember this billboard? Do I remember this TV commercial? There is nowhere to click. There is nowhere to track. There is no pixel. Everything was fixed on brand recall. Can I make you remember this purple cow in a field of white cows? So in this digital field, we've lost that art. We just think that you could just push it and get the tracked sale, and that's not true, especially not anymore. So brand recall is so important, and people remember emotions. They remember, if you relate with them, they will remember it, especially if you relate with their pain. If there's a value exchange, if you're providing education or information that impacts them in a major way, if you make them laugh, if you make them feel any type of emotion, there's a value exchange there. If I make you laugh, that means I somehow related with you in a way that made you feel good, or that made you feel good about something. And it usually centers around pain. This all centers around pain. You know, I've wrote thousands of scripts now, and whenever I can get at the pain of something, it will sell. That's what, as human beings, that's what motivates us. That's what drives us. We're all terrified of the thought that someday we're going to die, and pain reminds us that we're all going to die, and we're all just trying to run away from it and avoid it as much as possible. And our survival instincts teach us to avoid pain at all costs. And so all products, all solutions, generally, even luxury products, if I buy a Lamborghini, it's probably because I want to feel important. I want to feel good about myself. I want to feel relevant. And that is probably solving some kind of pain that I have.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. I mean, sounds like such a basic principle. Sometimes I know I've forgotten about it when I'm trying to push a point, or you know, I don't know, a new you know, training that we have coming up, or even, you know, we do it in real estate all the time. Like, we're pushing the actual property, but it's not there's no connection to anything emotional there. A lot of times I own a brokerage, and I see that happen quite a bit with the marketing that some agents put out. It's just about the house, it's about the numbers, but it's hardly ever about the lifestyle or the possibilities for the new family moving in. So maybe going a little bit beyond the pragmatic and the actual product into the emotions and feelings. It is, I mean, that's the right way to do it. I mean, obviously it's the way that you guys come across, you know, crafting these you know, ads and strategies, right? So I want to ask you, I want to go back a little bit in the conversation. So you went from 15 employees to 150, right, in a month and a half, or I'm sorry, in a year and a half. Tell me about that transition from a founder standpoint. How did that, I mean, impact your mindset? How did it impact? A lot of times we're looking for, like, we're taught over and over again, right? Control growth, control growth, control growth. Especially if you're going through, you know, entrepreneurship trainings and strategies and tactics. But how the hell do you manage that fast you know, spike? Because you evidently, you know, hit a hockey stick effect, and then it just spiked up. How did you manage that whole process?
It was extremely difficult, but fortunately we had been around long enough that we knew who to hire. A lot of people were already partially trained. We had 15 employees, but we worked with over 50 contractors. So we were able to systematically bring those contractors in-house in a lot of cases. We also happened to be in a great area in Utah, which has this huge pool of talent: film, production, creative, makeup, wardrobe, set building talent. Sundance is in Utah.
Yeah.
There's just a film industry there, heavy amateur film industry. So we had a great pool of talent to draw from. And so that was really helpful too. But yeah, it was difficult. And you know what's funny is the only reason we grew was because of a consequence that we couldn't stomach. We had reached 15 employees, and I couldn't drive enough business from speaking at conferences, chasing people down at events, getting press features, you know, just doing all these hard, very unscalable things. We just couldn't break the revenue mark, and we couldn't sustain the 15 people with the volatility up and down, up and down. So that's when we thought, we've got to sell something. Because at the time we only took stuff that was like 100 grand plus. We wanted to be premium. We wanted to be a lifestyle agency. We didn't want to turn this thing into a big corporate nightmare. But what made us grow was that we didn't want to lay anyone off. And that was the motivation to finally control growth. And we started running ads, and we experimented with various programs so that we could work with more brands that didn't have as big of a budget. And what just happened in doing that, we were able to create solutions and very valuable and necessary things that e-com brands need for the masses, for any e-com brand that's doing six figures, we were there. They could afford us. And that's why we grew.
So you focused on actual human capital, and that, I mean, that again, you tapped into the pain, right? You tapped into the pain of all right, we don't want to fire, we want to grow, we want to do something else. So you had to come in and pivot. Now, you as a particularly as a as the business owner, how did your mindset had to adjust? Like, what was that psychological process? I love tapping into that kind of stuff because I think it's one of the most under talked about things, and it's one of the biggest tools that we have as entrepreneurs. It's how do we keep centered or balance or counterbalance, if you may, as we're going through this whole thunderous process of hiring and then incorporating new systems in place, figuring out what's going to work, how do we expand, how do we make sure that we have the right logistics in place for them to be operational, keep accountability up, and all that stuff. So how did you manage that from a mindset standpoint?
It was trusting other people that are better at it than me. So I actually didn't deal with all of that stuff because I hired people that could do it. I just stayed focused on sales because I knew I was the guy for sales. I knew I could bring in business. I knew that if I kept making ads and focusing on that, sales solves all problems. And I'm not an operational guy. Never going to be. Never going to be. I'm never going to pass calculus in college, and I'm never going to be the operations guy. Never going to be an engineer. I'm never going to be a doctor. It's not, my brain can't do it. So it was just hiring people that are smart and that could keep things organized, and then just letting them make decisions and not getting in their way. But it was hard. I mean, it was hard. And the people that went through that with us, they're now executives and now they're partners in the business.
Wow. That's crazy. So is that one of the things that led you to you were on Forbes 30 under 30? Like, is that one of the things that was a catalyst for that kind of stuff?
No, Forbes 30 did nothing for us. I mean, maybe it did something for me and my personal brand. Maybe a few deals closed because they're like, oh, maybe we could trust this guy. But no, Forbes doesn't do a lot. Like, one thing I learned is you can get press features, you can speak, you could keynote at a conference in front of 5,000 people. But in an agency, those things are not going to do it. You're going to get to 3 million a year and you're going to get capped. And the reason is because when you're in direct response, if you get results, your clients don't want to tell anyone about you. They don't want their competitors to know.
Secret weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. You are, I say it all the time, ad agencies are plastic surgeons. We make people beautiful. And sometimes we make ugly people less ugly. And they get mad about it. But you can't fix ugly. But no one wants to talk about who their plastic surgeon is.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. And so I started realizing we've got to promote ourselves in a scalable way because we're never going to build up. I mean, we've tripled the revenue of all these companies and none of them are going out there and bringing us business. None of them. They're all keeping it quiet. So what we did is we ran ads and we published those case studies. We got their permission and we published their case studies. And we just promised to not take on brands that compete with them. So you got to go out there, man. That's what I learned. You got to go out there and you got to promote yourself because no one's going to do it for you.
Social proof type of ad. Is that what that is? See,
yeah,
I'm a quick learner, bro.
Got it.
I'm on this.
Actually, a case study. That'd be a case study ad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Case study. Yeah.
Now, if I went and did the Forbes 30 under 30 or talked about how we're Inc. 5000 company, then that would be a social proof.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm getting it. Yeah, it's crazy. Sitting down and trying to figure all this out. It's super hard, right? When you see it from a different perspective or a different context, or somebody even just lines things out, like sometimes it clicks. There's enough background information already stored just based off of the stuff that we try to do as to market the company. When you're starting a business and you bootstrapping, you're trying to figure everything out. Like, how do I do Facebook ads? How do I push my stuff through YouTube? How do I do this? How do I do that? And a lot of times it just, takes that little piece of glue to bring it all together and connect it so you understand it, not necessarily master it, but you have a better picture of it. So now, as you were going through the 7 different styles, like, all right, cool, I can think of ads that I've seen or worked on or whatnot, but like that applies to that and it makes perfect sense. Man, it's refreshing, right, to see the real track record of a company that's growing up. We usually see whenever you see an ad, whenever you see something that's fully crafted, you automatically assume that it's something that was maybe started off big. You know what I mean? And the case is different. Like it's completely different. Everybody has their own struggles, their own challenges as they go. I mean, hell, growing from 15 to 150, it's insane, right? Especially getting hit with opportunities like Forbes, which you're talking about from this side of the screen. I mean, you would think like, all right, cool, that happened because of that, and it was a catalyst for the success, or it was a catalyst for the hockey stick effect per se. But at the end of the day, it's sales.
Yep.
It's sales.
It's all sales, man. Everything at the end of the day, it's always just sales. That's what it always just comes back down to.
You seem to have a pretty good understanding of your strengths, and more importantly, your weaknesses. So sticking to those areas, I mean, I think it's the golden ticket. A lot of times we get distracted and want to do everything or release control and end up becoming bottlenecks.
Yeah.
But no, kudos to you, man. I don't think it everything that you've been able to achieve so far, it's I mean, when you put it in that context and you know that you're focused on your track, like it all makes sense. I see the reason why.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate the conversation. I have another question for you. Being that you're a marketing wizard, if somebody has a limited budget and they want to tap into some of the most effective ways of pushing their business, pushing their message or their brand, what would you recommend?
How much money are we talking?
I don't know, say somebody has a 10K to invest into their marketing budget.
Save your money.
Yeah.
Yep. Use organic methods, like focus on growing your Instagram or your TikTok. At 10 grand, you don't really have a real marketing budget.
Okay.
The odds of turning 10 grand into a scalable, sustainable marketing budget is probably like 5%. Save your money. So don't run ads until you've got like 15, 20 grand, because you also need to spend money on making good creative. What if you spend 10 grand on ads and you don't have the right ads?
Right.
Well, then you just wasted 10 grand. What if you spend 10 grand and your product is not ready or your website is not converting well? Well, then you just wasted 10 grand. So there's just a lot of ways to waste 10 grand. You just have to have more money to start stuff. Now, I'm talking about products. If you've got 10 grand to spend, then don't sell a product, sell a service, sell your time. Do what I did. Sell your time. If you could sell your time, you could sell other people's time. If you could sell other people's time, then you now have a marketing budget. That's my opinion on how to do this thing. Too many people are trying to start something when they don't have enough resources. Like if you're going to sell, let's say you're going to sell some kind of exercise equipment, right? If you've got 10 grand in marketing budget, you're dead before you even started. You don't have enough money to float inventory.
Oh yeah.
You don't got enough money to do this. So instead, teach people how, you know what I mean? Sell your time, go do physical training, go write meal plans for people, be a accountability coach, sell accountability coaching services. You got to sell your time first, save up money, and then get your 30, 40, 50 grand. And then can take a real shot at this thing. And guess what? If it doesn't work, you still have a service business that makes money. You won't be destitute. And I see it too many times. People are trying to do this with too little, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of times we talk about, or I come across people who they want to drop a marketing campaign, and they're talking about 1,000. Hell, for example, in real estate, we spend anywhere from 20 25K a month on marketing, and that's just to kind of keep it sustainable, right? But when you have something outside of that and you have a specific product, it's not a month thing. It's like that's a total budget. So it's interesting to hear that perspective of okay, put it together to build it up to a place where you can actually create the revenue and then do it time and time again. So if somebody's going to drop, I don't know, YouTube ads, or they want to push it, somehow, some way, what would you recommend building up to? You're talking, 20K, 25K, and then start looking into it after they have the creative side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like if you can spend 7 or 8 grand a month,
mm-hmm.
then you're good to go. But the problem is, right, if you only spend 7 or 8 grand, you're not going to get positive ROI in a month.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to weather the storm and make it 3 months before
mm-hmm.
you do that, right? And if you have a subscription product, even longer than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and of course, what you're talking about. You had the number one ad of the decade, which was Kobe versus Messi. You had what, 140 million views on that thing?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I love it. Travis, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been enlightening to see, some of the strategies that and actually tapping into the data that's costed you guys, hundreds of millions of dollars to put together. So thank you so much for that. That's super valuable. Before we sign off, I'd like to ask everybody a question, and that's if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what advice would you give that kid?
I'd say slow down.
Really?
Yeah, man. I should have taken a year or two to just relax and figure out the meaning of life. I was the opposite of probably most young people. I was way over motivated, way too focused. And there's too many people like Vaynerchuk out there telling people to grind and to skip out on things. Well, I did that before Vaynerchuk was even out there saying anything on the internet. I was doing that. And I was not going out. I was not eating out, man. I wasn't like buying new clothes. I wasn't, but I wish I would have. Like, I wish I would have financed a van and just surfed for a year. Yeah. Just because I was just so driven and just so focused on getting ahead that I think it kind of hurt. It hurt myself. I hurt myself, dude. I didn't need to go through so much pain. I could have just done it a little bit slower, but I don't know. I don't know if that advice is going to resonate with very many 17-year-olds, because I don't think a lot of 17-year-olds were as driven as I was.
Well, that's the important thing, right? It's your own advice to yourself, going back there and having that awareness of what could have been, or yeah. if I would have done it differently, or what tweak, what little different thing would I have plugged into it. But that's interesting. Most people say, oh, you know what, push harder, or have bigger aspirations. But it's slowing down and smelling the roses. It's huge.
Smelling the roses, man. I didn't smell any roses, dude. I mean, I had fun. I did a lot of fun things. I threw some big house parties and started an MMA fight promotion, and it was always just so focused around like career development. And sometimes, dude, it's okay to just take a break. You're only young once, man. Well, you're 33 now, and that's it. Now I'm getting old.
It's just numbers. Like, no, the body starts hurting after a while. Physicality too. No, I totally get it, man. It's I mean,
I would take better care of myself. That's the real thing, dude. Just take better care of yourself. Yeah. And I never drank, man. I never drank. I partied, but I didn't drink.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine how messed up I'd be now if I would have drank.
If you would have picked that up, uh, you're definitely wired to be an overachiever, and that can be both a blessing and a curse, right? So counterbalance, man. I'm a huge proponent of counterbalance. Not necessarily. I think if I lived a life of balance, I'd be bored to death.
Yeah.
If it was all, zen, and there was no stresses, no highs, no lows, to me, my personal taste, it'd be a bland life, and I don't think I'd be as joyful as I am. But I think it's a matter of understanding. Like, to me, it became a matter of understanding counterbalance. Right, whenever I go balls to walls because I'm working on a particular project, like, I do get tired, I get exhausted and whatnot, and I need something to drag me out of that into my personal life, into my personal side.
What is the thing for you?
For me, a lot of it, I mean, I enjoy conversations. And for example, the whole morning I was working on a new training that I'm putting together. It's business development, right? But I can do that for 12, 16 hours and nobody pulls me away from that. So this right now, what we're doing, you and I, it's a counterbalance measure. Even though it helps my business, it pushes me forward. It's a different conversation, and I'm tapping into your perspective. I love that. It's seeing different perspectives or understanding different ways of thinking. Just kind of open up my mindset a little bit, and that pulls me away from that little, from that grinding space. Into a different one. And then on top of that, I throw in workouts, I throw in meditation. This afternoon I'm gonna go get I found this really cool a girl that does cupping and acupuncture and Reiki meditation all at the same time. So you walk out, like, you float out of her space. But it's pretty cool, that kind of stuff, right? Finding something that resonates and clicks with you, and finding that counterbalance to it.
Yeah, I've never heard that term before.
Counterbalance.
No, that's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful principle.
Yeah, it made perfect sense. The first, and it's something that I picked up years ago. I don't remember.
Counterbalance, because if you don't have it, the thing just falls over.
Exactly. You run out of track. So, anyways, that's important.
Vaynerchuk needs to start. Vaynerchuk can't talk about counterbalances because he doesn't have them.
I love.
He's in a free fall avalanche all the time, and he's exhausted, and he's drinking 5 cups of coffee. The guy needs a counterbalance. Vayner, counterbalance, dude.
Counterbalance, bro. No, you're completely right, and I love everything that he stands for, right? But I became, up until about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I became an antagonist of the hustle. I feel like counterbalance, again, it's hustle is not sustainable. You got to build systems and processes and stuff like that to be able to sustain profitability in business, right? But
the real word is grit.
It wears you out. Like, if you're always going like that, it wears you out. Yeah.
People think that hustle associates with like time, but the important thing is grit. Grit is much more smart thinking, strategic thinking.
100%.
Hustle is like, it's like non-strategic, stupid.
Busy work can be hustle. Enduring growth and the challenges that come along with that, on spikes, like, takes grit to do that kind of stuff. To still
family. I think having a family is a good counterbalance, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I know it happens for me on my side, for my boys. So it's, and my whole family, it's a good counterbalance. I counterbalanced in Costa Rica last week, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I was there the same time you were there.
Really? Last week?
Yeah. Where were you?
I was in Guanacaste, on the west part of Costa Rica. Yeah.
I was in Arenal. Just missed you, man.
Arenal. Yeah, it's not too, I think it's on that neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy. Gotta link up. Well, I'm gonna be in Utah. I think next week or something. I have a training going on over there, but yeah, man, I'd like to just keep the conversation going at some point.
Cool. Awesome.
Travis, it's been a blast, man. I appreciate it. A lot of golden nuggets, a lot of good strategy that was shared. and invaluable content, I think, for the people listening to the podcast. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, maybe reach out to you for services, bring you guys on, or how does one do that?
So I'm the most successful on Instagram at Travis_Chambers, but I'm the most active content-wise on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can check out all our stuff, chamber.media. And then if you want to check out the AI copy tool I talked about, that's unicorncopy.ai.
Unicorncopy.ai. And we'll have all those links in the show notes.
Cool.
For those for people who are listening. So once again, brother, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast.
Thank you, Raphael.
Boom. It's a wrap.